Welcome to Happy Death Day. Can you imagine being so dangerous they whisper your name like a curse? Not a king, not a president, not a general with shiny medals, just a dude from the desert. And still, the United States Army, Mexico, thousands of soldiers, scouts, and mercenaries, all chasing one man. That name? Geronimo. This ain't no Disney Western. This is blood, revenge, desert survival, and one stubborn Apache who refused to clock out quietly. Let's talk about the last free warrior of the Southwest. Geronimo wasn't born Geronimo. His Apache name was Goyaałé, which translates to the one who yawns. Yeah, the one who yawns. Don't laugh. Imagine being so fearless in battle you look bored. He was born in 1829 in what's now Arizona/New Mexico territory, part of the Bedonkohe band of the Chiricahua Apache. We're talking desert survival at expert level. No grocery stores, no GPS, no AC, just sun trying to cook you like fajita meat. And the Apache? They mastered it. Tracking, raiding, moving silent, living off the land like ghosts. Young Geronimo grew up hunting, learning war tactics, spiritual traditions. He wasn't a chief. He wasn't royalty, just a warrior. And then, tragedy hit. In 1858, while Geronimo and the men were away trading, Mexican soldiers attacked his camp. They killed his mother, his wife, his children. Just like that. No dramatic warning, no prepare yourself speech. Just smoke, screams, silence. When Geronimo came back and saw the bodies, something snapped. He later said he heard a voice promising that no bullet would ever kill him, that he would be protected. Now listen, when a grieving warrior hears the spirit say, "You're invincible," that's not therapy. That's a revenge arc. And Geronimo became a problem. For years, Geronimo led raids against Mexican forces. Fast, surgical, brutal. He wasn't just fighting soldiers. He was sending messages. You don't wipe out my family and go home peaceful. Eventually, American expansion enters the chat. The U.S. Army moves west. Reservations start forming. Promises get made, and broken, and made again, and broken again. The Apache were pushed onto reservations. Hot, miserable, controlled. Geronimo? He was not built for confinement. Imagine trying to cage a hurricane. He escaped reservations multiple times. Each time, the U.S. Army had to scramble. We're talking thousands of troops chasing maybe a couple dozen warriors. You know how embarrassing that is? "Sir, we lost him again." Again? Bro was out here playing real-life hide-and-seek on nightmare mode. By the 1880s, Geronimo is basically the desert boogeyman. Newspapers painted him as a savage monster. But here's the twist. He was fighting because every agreement made with his people got violated. Land stolen, food supplies cut, freedom stripped. Was he violent? Yes. Was he ruthless? Absolutely. But so was the system swallowing his homeland. This wasn't random chaos. This was resistance. He mastered terrain like it was coded into his DNA. Mountains, caves, canyon shadows. He'd vanish into Mexico, cross borders like they were suggestions. Even the U.S. Army admitted, tracking him was like chasing smoke. Now here's where it gets heavy. By 1886, Geronimo and his small group were exhausted, starving, surrounded. The U.S. military had over 5,000 troops hunting fewer than 40 Apache. That's not a battle. That's overkill. Eventually, he surrendered to General Nelson Miles. And that surrender? It marked the end of major native armed resistance in the American Southwest. Let that sink in. One man's surrender symbolized the closing of a whole chapter of resistance. You'd think surrender meant prison for a bit. Nah. Geronimo became a prisoner of war for the rest of his life. Shipped to Florida, then Alabama, then Oklahoma, far from his homeland. Imagine surviving deserts, armies, bullets, only to die stuck in captivity. He was paraded around as a curiosity, put in fairs, exhibitions, even rode in President Theodore Roosevelt's 1905 inaugural parade. Think about that. The same government that hunted him, now showcasing him like a trophy. That's dark irony. He'd sell autographs and bows to tourists. America turned its enemy into a roadside attraction. History's weird like that. In 1909, Geronimo was thrown from his horse and left lying in the cold overnight. He developed pneumonia. The warrior who survived decades of warfare died from exposure. February 17, 1909, at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. A prisoner. Not in battle, not in glory, just cold. That's the part that hits hardest. The desert ghost didn't go out in fire. He faded in frost. So what was Geronimo? To settlers, he was terror. To his people, he was resistance. To history, he's complicated. He wasn't perfect. War isn't clean. But he represented something bigger, the refusal to disappear quietly. His name became legendary. Even U.S. paratroopers later yelled, "Geronimo," when jumping out of planes. Imagine fighting the U.S. Army, and later they use your name as a symbol of courage. That's legacy. And on February 17, 1909, the desert ghost finally went quiet. Not in battle, not with a war cry, not with cavalry bullets flying. Nah. Geronimo died a prisoner of war at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, after surviving armies, deserts, betrayals, and decades of manhunts. The man dodged thousands of soldiers, but couldn't dodge pneumonia after one cold night on the ground. That's the cruel joke of history. So today we say it with respect. Happy Death Day to the warrior they couldn't erase. The Apache fighter who turned resistance into legend. They captured the man, but they never captured the name. Geronimo. Subscribe for tomorrow's Death Day. And remember, death is guaranteed. History is optional.